Somewhere outside right now, the air is changing. Not visibly, not loudly, not in any way your eyes or ears could detect, but something is moving through it. Invisible, ancient, carried on wind from a storm that hasn't reached you yet, and buried somewhere in the part of your brain that existed long before language, long before thought, long before you were anything recognizable as human. Something already knows. Most people assume the smell of rain is simple. Water falling from the sky, a pleasant scent, something poets write about. That is not what it is. What you are actually detecting when you smell rain arriving, before a single drop has fallen, before the sky is darkened, sometimes hours before the storm reaches you, is one of the most sophisticated sensory operations in the natural world. And it has been running inside you silently every day of your life. Start with the first signal, the one that arrives earliest. Before a storm forms, before clouds gather, before pressure drops, before any human instrument registers anything unusual, lightning begins. Not close lightning, not lightning you can see or hear. Lightning miles away, striking the upper atmosphere, splitting oxygen molecules apart at the molecular level. Those split molecules recombine into something different, O3 instead of O2, ozone. Ozone has a scent, clean, electric, specific, and it travels ahead of the storm on the wind, arriving like a messenger sent in advance of something enormous. Your nose catches it before your conscious mind has any idea what is happening, and somewhere below awareness, in the oldest architecture of your nervous system, something registers. The atmosphere is changing. Something is coming. For 300,000 years, that signal meant one thing: prepare. But ozone is only the beginning. Right now, beneath wherever you were standing, the soil is alive. Not metaphorically, literally. Billions of bacteria called actinomycetes live in the earth beneath every surface humans have ever walked on. Every field, every forest floor, every patch of ground beneath every city ever built. They have been there since before the first human drew breath. They will be there long after the last one stops. When soil dries between rains, these bacteria go dormant. They wait with a patience that has no equivalent in human experience. Days, weeks, sometimes months of silence. Then, the storm approaches. Humidity shifts, atmospheric pressure moves, and the bacteria wake. They begin producing a compound called Geosmin, releasing it upward through the soil into the air ahead of the rain that triggered their revival. Here is where it becomes difficult to explain without sounding like a mistake. Humans can detect geosmin at concentrations as low as 5 parts per trillion. 5 parts per trillion.
To understand what that means, imagine an Olympic swimming pool. Now imagine 20 of them, end to end. Now imagine dropping a single drop of liquid into all of that water combined. You would smell it. Your nose, this instrument you blow into tissues, this thing you complain about every winter, is one of the most precise detection systems ever built by 400 million years of biological engineering. Scientists still cannot fully explain why human sensitivity to geosmin is so extraordinarily acute. The leading hypothesis is almost too simple to believe. For most of human history, fresh water was not a guarantee. It was everything. The ability to smell rain approaching, to know where it would fall, where rivers would rise, where the earth would produce food, may have been the difference between survival and disappearance for your ancestors across thousands of generations. The people who could not smell it are not your ancestors. The people who could are. Then the rain arrives, and the third signal hits. In 1964, Two Australian researchers, Isabel Joy Bear and Richard Thomas, were trying to identify a smell that had no name. The rich, deep, unmistakable scent that rises from dry earth the moment the first drops fall. They extracted it from ancient rocks. They named it Petrichor, from the Greek Petra, meaning stone, and ichor, the fluid ancient mythology said flowed through the veins of gods.
Petrichor is released when raindrops strike dry earth. Each drop creates a tiny impact that generates air bubbles at the surface, bubbles that burst and launch microscopic aerosol particles carrying plant oils and geosmin upward into the air.
The compounds that create petrichor have been found in fossils dating back 400 million years. 400 million years! Before the first dinosaur, before the first flower, before anything that would be recognizable to a human eye as life on land. This smell existed then. It rises from the earth now, and something in you responds to it with a depth that bypasses thought entirely. Researchers have found that when these compounds, ozone, geosmin, petrichor, reach the human nose simultaneously, the brain releases serotonin. Not metaphorically, measurably. The same neurochemical associated with safety, with calm, with the specific sensation that the world is, at this moment, fundamentally okay. That feeling you get when rain smell hits. That quiet, specific, inexplicable peace. That is not aesthetics. That is 400 million years of biological memory activating in real time. We have spent the last 2 centuries building a world specifically designed to prevent this from reaching you. Filtered air, climate-controlled environments, synthetic fragrances engineered to mimic nature without containing it. The average person in the developed world now spends more than 90% of their life in artificial environments, further removed from the sensory signals of the natural world than any human being in history. And yet, step outside when a storm is approaching. Stand still for a moment. Let the air reach you. The signal still gets through the concrete and the filtered air and the synthetic world layered over everything. 3 chemical compounds assembled by lightning, bacteria, and physics are still finding your nose, still activating systems in your nervous system that were ancient when your species was new, still telling you something your rational mind cannot access. The storm is coming. Water is near. You are going to be okay. There is something quietly extraordinary about this. You carry inside you a sensory system that has remained functionally unchanged for hundreds of thousands of years. The ancestors who needed it most, who lived or died based on whether they could find water in a drying landscape, built it into you through a chain of survival so long it becomes incomprehensible to count. You did not choose this ability. You did not develop it. You inherited it from people who needed it desperately, in a world that no longer exists for reasons that stopped being relevant the moment someone built the first aqueduct. And still it runs. Every time a storm approaches, every time those 3 compounds reach your nose before the rain does, every time you stop on a sidewalk or in a parking lot or outside a door and feel for a moment you cannot explain that something is about to change. That is not weather you're sensing. That is 300,000 years of human survival still running in the background, still trying to keep you alive. Still, after everything, paying attention.